Hello, my lovelies. Welcome back. So, like I promised, I'm right back at it for the Hellraiser series. So, reason it took me so long on this one is because this is my personal favorite of all Hellraisers. This is Hellraiser 6, Hellseeker. If you don't know what Hellraiser Hellseeker is, it is a wonderful film which actually was released in 2002. It was rated R, and it has a runtime of 1 hour and 29 minutes. This one's actually unique because most of them have where it is horror and like sci-fi, while this one is horror and mystery. Now, the reason for that is because this is kind of a more suspenseful film than probably any of the other Hellraisers, and that's for the factor of its story. Now, with this one, we have 3 main characters. If you haven't been keeping track, we are up to the 6th one, where, I hate to say this, but the upsetting thing with more like later installments is that when a series gets like this where it has so many installments, it tends to be where it loses track of the original story, which is kind of an upsetting thing most of the time. Like 1 and 2 were about Christy and her story of how she dealt with the lament configuration. Well, the wonderful thing about this one is we bring back Christy. Christy Cotton is actually now Christy Cotton Gooden. She married a man named Trevor Gooden. Trevor is actually the main character of this film, even though I'm still going to say Christy's the main character. And I'm going to say immense spoilers ahead. This is my favorite of the Hellraisers. I am probably going to go immensely into detail. So if you have not seen this film, want to watch this film, and don't want to have any kind of spoilers in it, stop the video now, go watch the film, and then after that, come back, watch it, and get your opinion on my opinion. I know it sounds weird, but I believe with films you should always give the film a chance before you watch any kind of reviews on it, just because you give yourself sometimes a unrealistic expectation of the film when you watch somebody else's opinion on it, because not necessarily what I think is something that you're gonna think. So go watch this film before you watch me. But if you're still here, we're gonna get right into it. So in the very beginning, this film kind of throws you for a loop. We start off with Trevor. Now, Trevor is just got into a car accident, which we find out is with his wife, Christy. Now, Christy is labeled as missing in the beginning because they do not find her body during this incident. Apparently, her and Trevor drove off of a bridge. And Trevor is having amnesia, which they are blaming on his concussion that he, occurred during the accident. He's just having memory loss because he hit his head so hard, basically. And in the beginning, we do see him hit his head pretty hard on the steering wheel. So in this entire film, he has amnesia, and he's dealing with the factor that he is having, for lack of a better term, hallucinations of his memories, where he cannot decide whether or not reality is reality or is his hallucination. Now, I say hallucination because he's seeing things that couldn't possibly be there, let alone are terrifying for anybody who would be just experiencing this in everyday life. Trevor, during this time, he has quite a few people where he is remembering things that happened before the accident. And the things include, but are not limited to, him having an affair with multiple people. Now again, why I said spoilers is because this is an important thing that you find out at the end of the film. Mostly. You start seeing bits and pieces where you start realizing Trevor's not the best person in the world. For example, he goes to his acupuncturist and she tells him basically, you're healing, you were in a horrible accident, certain things aren't going to come to you, easily, you're going to have to let them come to you slowly. And, you're just like, okay, makes sense. You know, she's a spiritual person. Maybe she understands some stuff about healing process. Okay, you know, she's dabbled in more than just, you know, our medicine. And then during his, you know, acupuncture, you have one of the more classic scenes of this film, which actually is in the advertisement for it, where Pinhead takes a pin out of his own head and sticks it through Trevor's back of his neck, through his esophagus, and punctures outwards through his neck. Very gruesome scene in that. I get why this has an R rating. It does deal with some very adult topics. Shush, baby girl. Sorry, my cat's in heat. She's just making a lot of noise. I apologize. But he has that hallucination, and then afterwards he snaps out once, you know, he's strangling to death from this. And he's back on his acupuncturist's table, and she basically tells him, you know, you're done. You know, you just take care of yourself, Trevor, and leaves. He then finds out later that she's been brutally murdered, and they are, you know, wanting to question him about it. So, you know, he has another incident, because he's had a few of these incidents with this police officer, where it's a team of police officers. It's two partners that are questioning him constantly because they can't figure out certain things of the case. Like, for example, Christy, in his statement, she couldn't get out of the car because her car door was either jammed or locked during the accident, and he couldn't get her out. So he swam up to the surface for air, and that's when they came and got him, and he couldn't go back down because, you know, his head was all woozy from having a concussion. Well, police officers tell him the car wasn't locked, and Christie's door was wide open, which we do see in the very beginning, that both doors on both sides are wide open. So he's having a lot of incidences that aren't coinciding with each other and aren't making any sense. And he has that a lot during the film. He has another scene with his boss. I'm telling these ones because they're very important, and like I said, I am giving spoilers away. These are the important main kills. We don't get very many kills in this film. This is very story driven and very character based, and each kill is important. That's why I'm bringing them up. His next one is his boss. Now, you come to find out through a couple of scenes, he has one where when he first goes back to work, his boss basically for lack of a better term, tries to physically assault him to a degree where he's trying to stop her, but she basically tells him, like, what are you doing? We do this all the time. But she pushes him up against a vending machine and starts, you know, being more romantic with him in that kind of gesture. And she's just like, we do this all the time. What's your problem, Trevor? You know, they said you have amnesia, but you can't be forgetting everything. And you come to find out that they've been having a, you know, extramarital affair because they're both married. But she has a kink. She likes to be tied up and bound, and basically, you know, she wants somebody who's gonna take care of her in different ways than what her spouse apparently is doing for her. And that's what Trevor was for her. So, you know, we come to see that, and then after he's had a relation with her where they film apparently every time that they are together, which is probably my guess of how everything came to be, was finding said tapes later. But yeah, they film everything. So Trevor comes to find out later that her murder was filmed because she was beaten and tortured in a very sexual manner, basically. And they find her bound to a chair and murdered. So, of course, Trevor's the first one to be accused of it because everybody else has been, you know, questioned and no results from there have been asked. So he is technically her employee and a close employee of hers. So, you know, they question him, blah, blah, blah. And after this questioning, he has a moment that's really weird where he's in his kitchen and he puts down groceries and he spits up an eel. Like, he literally just vomits an eel. And like it sticks with you because it's just a very guttural scene, but it's important for later, that is explained later. So keep that eel scene in mind, okay? So then we fast forward a little bit, and he is talking to his partner. This character isn't really that important, so you don't really need to know his name very much. He doesn't appear very much, but he is Trevor's partner in the aspect of what was planned and what they did together. Is basically the best way to put it. They are a duo that decided to pair up and do something very horrific. And as a result of his guilt, Trevor's partner decides to commit suicide in front of him. We see this, what he thinks is a hallucination. He doesn't think it to be real at first, but then he is told by officers later that yes, your friend did in fact kill himself. So he's thinking that it's in his head, but it's actually real. So keep in mind that his best friend, did kill himself out of quote-unquote guilt. All right? Now, we get to the one that's a little bit weird, in my opinion, because I don't feel as though this person kind of deserved it. I mean, yes, they did in the aspect that they had an affair with him, and knowing that he was married, but they're basically they live in an apartment complex, and it's the person that lives nearby to them is just this young woman who you can tell is a little bit more sexually mature than she wants to fully admit right away. Like, she is very much a outwards person with her sexuality, and you'll see that in the very few scenes that she's in. And it'll throw you for a loop later, because they play it as if she doesn't know him whatsoever, really, and she has this boyfriend and such, and she's just like, what are you talking about? I don't even know you. But like, she has where she comes over to his place and she basically hits on him, and you know, they do the dirty, and yeah. So those are the important characters that you need to know about. And that young woman, for some reason, also is brutally murdered, even though we see, like I said, the scene with the boyfriend, which makes no logical sense, which later on we find out the boyfriend's the one who found her and called in about her dead body. So she was also brutally murdered, but they don't really go into detail besides saying it was brutal. So Trevor has all of these people that he's being questioned about, and all these people who are dropping dead around him, right? And he's being brought in for what's going to be the last time in the film to be questioned about things that just don't make sense. And one of the things that just don't make sense is that Christy's dead. Her door was unlocked. She could have gotten out of the vehicle. So the cop the good cop, you'll understand what I mean when you watch the film, keeps saying that just doesn't make any sense. Fill in the blank for us, Trevor. And you come to find out what I was telling you guys about the officer being odd is that he's technically, this good cop, bad cop partners are one person. They're not even a person, they're a demon. They basically have the ability to switch out their heads and become the other person. And it's done in a really cool way where like the head just comes out the back of the other one, and like they're standing next to each other, where it's just like attached to the back of the head talking to Trevor. And like he has all of these hallucinations going down with the police officer and seeing like all these different rooms that are just, you have to pause them to see them in all their entirety, but they're just some creepy scenes that like this director just went all out for. And then he gets down where he's supposed to identify the body. Now keep in mind that's important. The body. So he gets down there into the morgue. And that's when Pinhead finally appears in this film. Yes. Very much towards the end. I think it's literally got like maybe 15 minutes when they finally put him in the film. I mean, he's in bits and pieces, like I said, like when he sticks the needle through Trevor's throat. A couple other scenes that we see him, but he's mostly a side character. like, until this point where Trevor's brought to the morgue and he's supposed to identify the body on the table, does Pinhead finally reveal the biggest twist of this film. So this is the spoiler to spoil all the film. If you don't want to hear this, skip ahead or go watch the film first, whatever you want to do. But everything that's happened in these events since the car accident are all in Trevor's head. Trevor is the body on the table. Trevor was trying to trick Christy, who he was trying to murder with his best friend, which is why his best friend killed himself. I'll explain that in a moment. To get her insurance or inheritance money. You guys remember her father in the very beginning was pretty wealthy. They never really explain why Christy is so ridiculously wealthy, but she basically inherits her father and her uncle's money, and she has a lot of inheritance. So Trevor was trying to kill her off, and he did it in a very, in my opinion, douchebaggy way. He knew of her past, he knew of the Cenobites, he knew of Pinhead, he knew all of it. She had told him her horrific story. And instead of being an understanding husband and just wanting a divorce because he just doesn't want to be with her anymore, he literally searches out, which is why he needed his best friend, and his boss even, for the lament configuration. He gives it to her as their anniversary present. The box that literally tried to kill her. To try to kill her. But what he doesn't realize is Christy knows how to open the lament configuration pretty well at this point. So she opens it. She talks to Pinhead. And she goes, I'll give you 5 souls in exchange for mine. I will kill 5 people for you if you give me my freedom. So what does she do? She kills his acupuncturist who he was having an affair with. She kills the neighbor, the apartment neighbor that he was having an affair with. She kills his boss that he was having an affair with, and then makes it look like a suicide, kills his best friend, and the 5th soul is Trevor. While we were in the car, in the very beginning, she confronts Trevor. I know about the lament configuration. I talked to Pinhead. He exchanged my soul for yours. That's why, Trevor, I'm going to basically kill you. And she pulls out a gun and she shoots him point blank. Which we then cut to him on the table, very much with, the gun wound in his head. And he very much drowned, is, I guess. The weird thing about it is they make it look like the body's drowned or that he, took in water, which they play on with the eel, which actually is crazy. The eel that we see him spit up is in the scene in a moment after Christy does all this and tells him that, and they go splashing into the water. Christy, of course, has unlocked her door, so she's able to get out instantly. And she's standing up on the shore with the officers telling them, I don't know why he killed himself. We were just driving and he pulls out a gun. And they basically tell him, well, he kind of murdered a bunch of people, including his boss and his best friend, who, we honestly aren't sure if he murdered him or if he just committed suicide. And we aren't surprised that he committed suicide. He was kind of in a lot of financial trouble, which is why he wanted the money to begin with. So basically, Christy's got away with murder on 5 accounts. And this is the part that's kind of weird. The eel is during the part where the mortician is going to take the body. And we see her quite a few times. She's the nurse that deals with helping Trevor feel like he's normal and like he's somewhat grounded. And you come to find out that's because she likes talking to the cadavers. She likes talking to these people because she feels as though at least they'll have somebody comfort them in their last moments that they have on this planet of being here, if there is such a thing as a soul and it's connected to the body. She feels as though at least one comforting soul or sound is good for them. So we see that transfer over into his purgatory, where she's basically like a comfort tool to him. And we see her abstract the eel from his mouth. Like, the eel that he spit up was her pulling it out. So it's kind of crazy in that, like, aspect that we see in real time, the stuff that's happening in his purgatory world, which takes days. So keep in mind, everything that's happening in an instant for us is happening in purgatory for days for him. So he's literally trapped in this purgatory she's created because she sold his soul to Pinhead, where he's constantly in a loop of forgetting what he did and forgetting everything that happened and coming to the realization he's dead. And then getting tortured by Pinhead and going back into the cycle. That is his hell. That is his personal hell that Pinhead has created for him because of the things he did. Because of the soul he was. Because he sought hell. Yes, the title, Hellseeker, is for Trevor. So I hope that you can understand where I'm coming from when I say that this one's my favorite story-wise. Because after this, we just see Christy walk away with Element Configuration. I think it's done in that aspect to try to make it so that there could be another film with Christy, because this one, yet again, it has the most story. It has some of the best sets that I've seen in any of the Hellraisers, besides maybe the original. It has really, really good, like, graphical effects, that some of it was done with prosthetics and real, like, life forms of doing these scenes instead of just constantly relying on CG. And there's some CG in there that's just did not do well with time, and I'll admit that. But for a 2000 film where CG from our version of what we have today to what was available then, it's really pretty, like, well held up in its quality, where it actually keeps going for people of our generation. And it's not horribly out of date for what it's film wise. So I have to say that this one has the most depth of any of them. It has the most wonderful of the stories of any of them. It keeps you guessing from the very get-go to the very end. You also have to re-watch it sometimes to catch some of the things. Like, you will see them hinting towards everything that is actually going on throughout the entire film. And there's small little hints. And if you aren't looking for them, you aren't going to find them. But re-watching it, you're going to be like, how did I not see that? Man, they were hinting towards that from the very get-go. But yeah, this one's my favorite on so many different levels. I hope you watch it and enjoy it as well. I hope that it's a film that encourages you to try to keep going with the Hellraiser films. I know that when it comes to getting to this single movie, you have 5 other films ahead of it, and some of them aren't the best. And it's not that they're horrible films. It's just versus this film, it's like comparing a story that has 1,000 pages to it and all of this detail and all of this, just story, to something that's 200 pages, and we're stretching for time and we're trying to fill in the blanks ourselves. And it's a far stretch from the Jessie story, where she's just a news reporter who stumbles upon Pinhead. We know these stories of Christie's past. We've seen the trauma that she's went through. She's a grown adult now. She's an independent person, and you can see it on her. She is who she is. And even though she's been pushed to the degree that she has, where she actually has to commit murder in this film, it's basically a life or death scenario. She chose her life over theirs. And when you really look at who betrayed her and the things that they did to her, girl has reasons. So yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know that this is my favorite one. So please be kind to this review. I really, really love this movie. I hope that you guys enjoyed this review as well. All of my social medias are always just the same. It is Kiki Voodoo Doll 666 for my Instagram and for my TikTok. My Twitch is twitch.tv/voodoodoll90. And of course, you guys know me here as voodoodoll666. I do have a brand new page that I am putting up, or I put up, that is just entitled Voodoo Doll. It is on Facebook. It is so that you guys can go ahead and get a hold of me on any kind of reviews you want done, or any kind of content in general for any of my social medias. If you want me to do a specific thing, let me know there. If you have any questions that you want me to answer, like Q&As, let me know over there at my Facebook, like I said, of just Voodoo Doll. You'll know it by an icon that is just a little tiny black and white voodoo doll. It also has the butterfly that you guys see in the background of this as my banner in the back, so you know it's my page. I love you guys. I hope that you've enjoyed my reviews on the Hellraiser series up until now. I'm going to try to get a few out there for you. I also have a video that I'm going to put out before this that is Killer Clowns from Outer Space. That was a requested review, so I broke up these to do that one. So I hope you can go and check out that one too and enjoy it. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next. Stay creepy, my little weirdos. Bye.